Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly call. So, we're in December and Christmas is looming. So, this week's topic is all about those festive nutrition tips. So, for those that don't know me, a little bit of a little bio here is I'm a qualified nutritionist, naturopath, mindfulness, yoga, and meditation practitioner. So, basically, I'm like your holistic practitioner. And for those that don't know what a naturopath is, I'm not a qualified doctor, but what we're known as is we're kind of like the GP in the natural health industry. So we incorporate through a consultation your whole medical history, and then based on my assessment, I'll assess you on nutritions, herbs, counseling, lifestyle, and obviously, really that all comes down to kind of how you live your life from either a stressful state or a parasympathetic state. We'll be getting that in closer into the call as to really how stress impacts every area of your life. So without further ado, this week we're really going to be talking about foods that help your digestion and beat the bloat during the festive period, because that's what you can do now. In the next 2 weeks, it's going to be quite crazy. Obviously, how to glow. We all want to look beautiful, but it's all about that glow from the inside out. And then obviously tips to help with a hangover. You know, I obviously am a nutritionist, but I do drink, but I don't let it take over me, and I'll only drink socially, and as well as calming practices to help you with any stresses, emotional, it's a period of loneliness for some people, or family can aggravate them. So lots of themes this month, but also so I was hosting my weekly yoga class yesterday, and what I was speaking to them, in yoga we always look at the body through the traditional Chinese medicine lens or the Vedic lens. So that's really going with the cycles of our natural surroundings, going through the traditional cycles too. So where we are here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's winter. So naturally in winter, we want to do more restorative, calming poses. In traditional Chinese medicine, in winter, we focus on the water of the element. We focus on the element of water. So what that means is that's really based on your kidney meridian, your life force. So in our yoga practice, we really worked on our inner thighs and our outer thighs. So really stretching those, working on your butterfly pose. So for example, something nice to do before you go to bed is if you've been out socialing, kind of doing a nice leg stretch. I know that sounds so basic, but really that's what preventative medicine is, or lifestyle medicine. It's compounding investment. We receive high reward. So it's the minute, small action that we do every day that compounds and builds our health investment. So that's really what I want you to focus on, and certainly what I've noticed in my 15 years of practice now, it's the micro habits that really build our resilience. And we're all genetic, we're all completely individual, we all have our individual DNA imprint. For example, one of my favorite sayings and what we say in functional medicine is that your genes load the gun, but your environment pulls the trigger. So for example, we know this when two identical twins, they have exact the same genome, but one lives one lifestyle and one lives another lifestyle, and they will both create two different outcomes based on their health. So we know this really to be true. So it's those habits, and I will be going back and back to these because I've noticed, and I notice with my clients, it's those small habitual changes which we often ignore. And there wasn't so much data, but now the data and the evidence on these lifestyle practices, for example, hot and cold bathing or ice bathing, the data in the literature that we're seeing where it can actually change your biochemistry and biology is just absolutely profound. So I know I'm going off on a tangent there, but I just really wanted to state those. So before we actually go in, I would want to say is that what your morning practices, just some small changes that will make a difference on all of these points here, is having your hot and cold shower. So I know it's uncomfortable, but when we put our biology in something in a acute stress response, that acute inflammation, and then our cells can our neutrophil cells, our white blood cells, can really amend the response so it's not a chronic state. So I would recommend for the rest of December, if you can, is when you have your shower, if you can do 30 seconds hot, 30 seconds cold, 30 seconds hot and cold, hot and cold 3 times. That is one thing that can really help build your resilience here, which feeds into all of these things that we're going to speak about. So before we dive into these topics, what I first want to speak about is I mentioned functional medicine, I mentioned naturopathy, I mentioned what preventative medicine is. So I'm not quite sure if you can see this, but we look at the whole picture. I'm obviously interested in your symptoms because that's what you've come to me for, but they all lead back to a story. And it really, I don't have a pointer here so you can't see, but what I'm talking about is the bottom of this tree here. So so your sleep, so how much sleep you get, how much relaxation you get here, because immediately we're talking about melatonin, we're talking about hormones, we're talking about your stress response, we're talking about cortisol, we're talking about enzymes, we're talking about all of these circulating enzymes, hormones, stresses that circulate through your whole body, through your whole bloodstream. Then we're talking about exercise and movement. So they say that sitting is now the new smoking. So obviously that's impacting inflammation. And I'm sure if you've seen in the literature or if you haven't, inflammation really impacts every single one of our current chronic diagnoses: diabetes, Alzheimer's, depression. It all feeds into there. Nutrition, hydration. So you are what you eat, right? But now with the literature into the microbiome and all the incredible studies into the microbiome, thanks to the Genome Project in the gut, and all of these incredible studies, it's more about how well can your body utilize and assimilate and absorb your nutrients. So from every bite that you take, are you actually absorbing that food? And so we know that digestion starts from actually our sensory organs. It starts from what we smell, and then that gets our salivatory enzymes happening. We have zinc receptors on our tongue too. So just in that first moments, we're really creating a whole biochemical cascade. So how is your biology able to absorb that nutrients? And so now we know as well, unfortunately, 50 years ago, we didn't have to have organic packaging. Now we do. So food shouldn't be organic, but now it's like, is your food sprayed or not sprayed? And that's what organic is. So we do not want our food to be sprayed, because that changes the chemical enzymatic compounds of your food, and it is alien to the human form. So this is going to stop you from absorbing all of the nutrients, all of your essential fatty acids, all of your minerals, all of your vitamins from that food, which create your energy, right? So we're told that, okay, we're supposed to have an afternoon slump, or we're told that we're not supposed to feel good in the morning. No, you should be feeling energized in the morning. No, you should not be getting energy slumps, but we are told that it's normal. It's obviously normal. I know we all experience these. I experience these. Modern day society, we're not eating all the right things. But I just want you to understand that vitality and energetic vigilance is your birthright. So if it's not, you should start questioning and investigating why. So I want to give you all of those tools so you can start being your own health investigator, because every signal, every response, every thought is your body communicating with you. But because we're so busy, and so obviously the lead up to Christmas, it's so frenetic, we don't have time to like listen to our body, and we will overindulge. But that period between Christmas and New Year's generally is a really nice time to really surrender, reflect, and see what's going on. So I'm conscious of time, so let me keep going. Relationships and networks. Obviously, our relationships affect, our emotions and how we respond, and our stresses, etc. So this is very important. Trauma, all types of trauma, whether they're physical or emotional trauma. When we go through our functional medicine clinical when I have go through a consultation, we can map out a timeline, and you will see always that there was wherever you experience symptoms, there was maybe some type of trauma, be it emotional or physical, like I mentioned. Microorganisms, are we more microorganism? Are we more microbial than we are DNA? Now, the literature is saying that maybe we have more microorganisms. Well, we are more bacteria than we are DNA. Environmental pollutants. And so the problem with our environmental pollutants, you could say, is we've always had these, but the problem is the rate at which the environmental pollutants and toxins are expanding is too fast for our genetic capability. So this is why we have to really empower ourselves and educate ourselves to be sovereign in what we intake, because unfortunately there is commercial interest that is going to be always selling to us things that maybe aren't great for our health, and unfortunately we learn that too late. So that's kind of the basis of the tree. That's the soil, right? Because we can always look to nature, and we can always look to history as like what you plant in this soil blossoms and blooms. So you can look at all of these things as our basis as to what's going to bloom in our garden. Obviously, then we look at genetic disposition, like I spoke about, your personal attitudes and beliefs, your family ones, and then how you relate with the world, and that would be more victim consciousness, etc. But that's for another call. And then here, so that it's broken down, as you can imagine, this is a map. So assimilation, so your gut, your immune system, your neurotransmitters, your endocrine system, your energy system, your detoxification system, they're all wiring and they're all connecting all of this time. So say, for example, you're getting a headache, it might be related to the inflammation in your gut, or it might be related to something that you've eaten, or it might be related to your hormones too. It might be related to maybe you're not able to detoxify your hormones quickly enough, or maybe you received an injury. So our whole body is not separate. It's always communicating and connecting with each other, because we have billions and zillions of cells inside our body moving and communicating like every second. It's just quite amazing. So our topic today is, since all of our organs and cells are connecting with each other, we're looking at digestion, we're looking at detoxification, we're looking at energy, and obviously I mentioned skin health because we want to glow. Excuse me, and I'm terribly sorry, I have not the greatest slides. So where this really starts from, and we can go back to Hippocrates, I'm sure everybody knows about Hippocrates now, as he was our doctor and who said all disease begins in the gut. And so this was, this has been deemed as something that naturopaths has been our honor of earth, and now it's being recognized mainstream. But now we can see that finally we've been able to expand upon Hippocrates' first words, which is incredible. But poor gut health does create a ripple effect across every single system of our body, including our immunity and our well-being, because you'll see in our later slides is that, I can show you here actually, that in our gut, our large intestine, our small intestine, it is the size of its ratio is huge. They say it's as big as, you know, a tennis court, a football court, and that's compounded in your system. And within that, within just your belly here, we have these incredible mucosal, the enzymes. It's just like this beautiful pathway that starts from up here, as I mentioned, it goes down to your anus. But we also have your your lymphoid tissue in here. So we have your immune system and immune tissue in here. And as well, we have serotonin in here. So this is where more actually serotonin is produced in your gut and then your brain. So then the question is if you eat something that maybe you feel a little bit sensitive to, and then you have a reaction in your gut, no wonder why you're not going to feel those happy chemicals. You're going to feel a little bit emotionally disturbed too, particularly if you're someone that has considerable bloating or gut problems or constipation or symptoms of IBS, which again, we've deemed as normal, but they are not thriving. And as well, what I need to mention to you is that disease doesn't happen overnight. Disease takes 5, 10, 20 years to occur. So that's why those micro movements and those micro behaviors have such an impact. So first of all, we can look at our digestive systems as we have our microflora here, we have our gut bacteria, we have, like I mentioned, how we digest and absorb foods, we have motility, so how food moves, or it's called chyme. So you'll eat some food material, eat some raw material, your digestive, all of your enzymes are mixed with that, your lipase, protease that help break down carbohydrates, sugars, proteins, and then it will come down as you move through. It's called what's called a chyme. And what your large intestine does, what your digestion does, it's like this wave movement that's happening probably right now, move your body. But sometimes this gets stuck based on some stickiness. Maybe there's stuck feces out there. There's a lot of movement that hasn't happened, because we really need to be making sure that we're defecating after every meal. I know this doesn't happen, but we really need to make sure that this does happen, because the longer that we have food stuck in our systems is the longer that it putrefies, the longer it smells, the longer how we are able to get bad bacteria that is feasting on it, and that's when you have those horrible symptoms, which then causes brain fog, it causes inflammation, it causes pain, all of these things. So that's motility, which I know is a bit uncommon for some people. And then we have integrity and immunity. So what I mentioned is where your immune system is. So let's take a look at digestion and absorption. So obviously it's okay, well, how do I tell if which one of these is for me? Well, we can investigate. So here it's whether you find it difficult to digest foods. Maybe you're experiencing bloating, burping, or flatulence. And some foods don't agree with you. So if we look a little bit further here, so expanding upon that is what are your symptoms? So you finish meals quickly, so you're one of these people that doesn't sit down. It's really important to sit down. And so that's one thing actually about Christmas time or this festive period, is that we are eating together, we're eating socially. So oftentimes we're actually really celebrating our food. That is the reason traditionally why we always came together. We never ate alone. We never ate on the go. We didn't eat in our cars. We all came together and broke food. So that's one benefit of this time. So what I would recommend is maybe you might be indulging a little bit more, not eating foods that you're used to, but then notice if you are slowing down your eating and you're eating more socially, how that experience is for you too. And so what I want you to do as we investigate is I really want you to kind of have a what we call a diet diary. And I know that sounds really boring, but what you can do is just get your iPhone, write in your notes after everything that you eat. This made me feel good, or I felt tired. Because if you are eating food, if you are eating a meal and it makes you feel tired, that is not okay. Food gives you energy. Food is nourishment. we've come into this obsessive culture where we're all foodies and we're all trying to get high off like food, but does it make you feel good? Really, is your question. Food is medicine. Okay, so do you get indigestion after meeting, abdominal pain? Certain foods don't agree with you, nauseous after eating, undigested food and stools. Now, I know I'm based in the UK right now, so it's very taboo to ask. Like, people don't check their stools. Your stools gives you so much information. Check the color, check if they're floating. Could mean there's not enough, you're not absorbing fat properly. If there's foodie bits in your stools, that means you're not absorbing your foods properly. There's so many different things, and that certainly is not diagnostic, but start recognizing your stools too, because it gives you so much information. So I just meant it floaty, but you want pale and floaty if the assimilation is not going so well, and you're prone to flatulence as well. And as well, taking medications, NSAIDs, so your inflammatories. I know we're in a culture now where we just pop, paracetamol, ibuprofen, but really we don't get away with anything free in life. It's the same with medications too. There's always side effects. So just really be careful and notice if you experience pain. Why do you experience pain? It's an indicator. Okay, so what can we do with digestion and absorption? So I mentioned is keep your meal routines, eat socially, reduce stress is really a huge one. Like that for one is, and so you want to be checking as well what works for you, as everybody is different. Some people love fasting. I myself love fasting. It doesn't always work for a lot of women, but it does work for men. And particularly if you come from a history of eating disorders, absolutely not. If you prefer ketogenic, or if you prefer eating more proteins, investigate what works for you. Usually, I'm sure most of us have always tried dieting. You can always check like which dieting schedule worked for you, and you can adapt the healthy version of that, completely making sure that you're not cutting out anything. So eating less foods and really making sure that you're chewing it, and drinking with food is a big no, because it completely washes out all of your digestive enzymes. So as well, you'll see in all traditional cultures generally, particularly I love Mediterranean, they have rockets before eating their meals. They'll have olive oil because it's bitter. So any foods that have like that bitter quality really start the digestive process too. You'll hear a lot of people talking about apple cider vinegar as well. So that's a really great one to help that enzymatic process going. We don't want you to be reliant of that, but if you can put some in a little bit of water, have a sip of that, that will help your journey, or put it on your salad leaves. Yep. Okay, so talk about digestive bitters. Watercress, rocket are really beautiful ones there. So what do we have next? We have balance of microflora. So we talked about the gut bacteria. Now, usually when I'm looking with someone that has IBS or has H. pylori or some digestive problems, generally we always want to go do a health history and see when did this happen, because there is usually a cause. So if you are experiencing these things, go back and check it out. But certainly with even in the UK, even in our English-speaking countries, we presume that we don't get parasites here, but we do indeed. Actually, there's a lot of parasites in the UK in our tap water. So I would say that everybody needs to do a parasite cleanse at least once a year, and if you haven't, do one. And you can speak to your healthcare provider about that. So what do we notice if we're experiencing these problems? So obviously, all the gut, they're all going to be similar, but there is going to be one defining aspect. Bloating, flatulence, abdominal pain, usually loose stools, particularly if you first encountered some type of bad bacteria, food poisoning, As well, if you don't eat a lot of fiber-rich foods. So fiber in our Western culture, unfortunately, we don't have enough fiber. We're not having that roughage. That's what moves things along, and that's what our bacteria helps them grow. So it's always about like not killing the bad bacteria. Everything is about symbiosis. Everything works together in life. You can't have good without bad. You can't have light without dark. It's the same with our bacteria. It's the same with nature. Light and dark balance. So in your system, you need the bad bacteria and you need the good one. But what the problem is when we experience our symptoms, that means there's a little bit more bad bacteria than good. So that's when you're going to be experiencing maybe some more fungal infections if you experience high athlete's foot, thrush, etc. You've had your blood tests, and then also if you have a family history of IBS and diarrhea, etc. Sometimes, unfortunately, that I do, and I'm seeing a lot more in clinic with my clients, is that this can be transferred, and it is transferred through the mother. So sometimes that's interesting to investigate too, but there's a lot you can do. And so we want to support the whole gut here. And generally speaking, what feeds bacteria, you can see like in a petri dish, it's sugar. So we really have to scale back that sugar, obviously commercial sugars, and usually a lot of fruits and things. So instead of having your high sugar fruits, like your pineapple, your tropical vegetable, you want to go more probably our British fruits that we have here, our European fruits, which is our blueberries, our berries, our pears. They don't spike your blood glucose response. We want to be looking at soluble fiber vegetables. So you want things, what that means is soluble fiber, it's quite mucilagous is what we call it. So it creates like that jelly. And as well, you want to obviously kill out the bad bacteria, and we want to do this naturally. So we want to be including our antimicrobials, antifungals. You can go to the health food store and supplement and get these too. So try those. And then motility. So this is one I talk about. It's like what can help with this like pushing of the digestive system here. So symptoms, obviously, it's kind of like it's either overkill or it's a little bit slow. So we've got loose stools, toilet urgency, constipation. Obviously, that flatulence piece will happen. The thrush piece, the fungal infection piece will happen too, because you're like creating an inferno of like everything to grow if it's not moving. Family history, always. So what happened here is like now, as I mentioned, since we have serotonin going in our intestines here, so that's triggered by emotions. So remember, in the cold too, as well, sometimes motility could be an issue because we're like constricting, tight, and we can never underestimate how our mental psyche affects our system more so. Our mental disposition has such an impact on our body too, and can control many things, right? Because it can control when you pee, it can control when you poo. You go to a festival, you'll do something, it's like, no, stop, don't do it now. And so we really have to be in this state of release. When we're stressed, are you breathing? Shallow breathing. No, are you breathing into the belly? One thing as well that we don't do, and this is what I really want you to be doing over the next few weeks, December, is stop, drop, and breathe into your belly. Your digestive system needs oxygen. Your cells need oxygen, but we all to do this. I do this too when I'm stressed. So actually, whilst we're here, let's stop and do our box breathing, okay? Because I notice I always want to fill a million things into these talks, and we don't have enough time. So we always have enough time. If we don't finish everything here, I will send around the slides. So let's just close, let's connect to our belly. So we want to put our hands like this over our belly, because why we're doing that is we're breathing in and we expand our belly for 4. Hold the breath for 4. Exhale. Let belly go. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale. Expand, no dropping shoulders, no tension on the jaw. And exhale. One more. Inhale. So that is probably one of your biggest actually tools for gut support. I have a mindfulness bell on my phone. So if you let that go sporadically, and when you hear that, it's like, where are my thoughts? Are they in the past? The future? Where am I breathing? Breathe. You need to send blood flow through to your digestive system. And if there's no blood flow, if you're stressed and digest, no, you cannot procreate, you cannot digest food. It is what it is. Okay, so you want to investigate those triggers, making sure that you're really well hydrated. Hydration is so important. Hydration is key for energy too. But a lot of the time, actually, we can't absorb our water too because the source of our water. So maybe you need to put some more electrolytes in your water. Natural electrolytes is your Himalayan salts too, because it has all of those minerals in it as well. So we want to be having herbs that support our digestion. We've got some beautiful mint there. Some people can't take mint, so you might want to be taking your fennel, your ginger, your chamomile. Also very anti-inflammatory as well. It's kind of sometimes avoiding the stimulants, tea and coffee. If you are sensitive to tea and coffee, I'm not anti-tea and coffee. All I am anti is chemical version of tea and coffee. Excuse me. So always making sure that your coffee, tea is organic, otherwise it's sprayed with chemicals and pesticides, and that is just causing havoc on your system. Your tea, if you are using tea bags, you want to make sure that they are cotton, not plastic, because when you heat the plastic, it's going to create all of these hormones and BPAs, etc., which is death-defying to your thyroid gland. Making sure you have a good daily movement, and you want to be supplementing with your probiotics, your prebiotics as well. I'm always pro food and getting things right over supplements. Probiotics, they do help with an immediate benefit and help things going along, but generally with your probiotics you'll see that they're like 40 billion, 100 billion, but we have trillions of bacteria, so it's literally a drop in the ocean. So you want to be looking at foods that help your good bacteria grow. So that's your artichokes, that's your Jerusalem artichokes, that's your fibers and your soluble fibers that we spoke about. So next, it's so your gut integrity. What that means is like, are there any holes in your gut? Is there kind of anything getting stuck in there? So we want this beautiful like film, this nice fluffy film over your digestive tract, so food can just move past. And what that layer is like, that's what we call the inflammation. That's your immune system there. So this is really how you respond and react to certain foods. There's an influx of like dairy sensitivities, gluten sensitivities, and actually there aren't many true allergies of gluten or dairy. What the problem is it's usually the quality of the wheat or the quality of the dairy. So the quality of the dairy, how many antibiotics, where is those cows from? Have they been eating what they'd like to eat on a farm and receiving all of the beautiful nutrients? So they do have omega-3s. Is there that beautiful cream on top? Or no? Have they been put through a factory farm, absolutely beaten, haven't been able to enjoy their life? Have they been stressed all the time, and have they been nuked? That, my friend, is not food. And the same can be said with wheat too. How is it sprayed? If we go to Italy or we go to France, we can digest the bread better, we can digest the pasta better. But then if you come, maybe try it in America or UK or Australia, then we don't have the right resource. So again, it's like, how has the proteins been molested? Okay, so I react to certain foods. Yeah, so how we kind of spoken about that. I feel comfortable, tests, stools, I kind of spoke about those. So again, it really comes down to the stress reduction. You want to do a diet diary. So as well, really noticing your activation response here. And as well, since we're working with inflammatory enzymes, secretory IgA, for example, that's an inflammation response. So you've eaten a food, there's a protein and your body has reacted to it. So that's an immune system response. So that's inflammation. So that's why we want to be talking about inflammation, and that's why anti-inflammatory diets are super important and probably really what you should be following. So again, it comes back to high fiber, comes back to fruit, veg, comes back to basics. You want to be getting your omega-3 fats in there. You're obviously correctly sourced omega fatty fish. Otherwise, if you're a vegan, vegetarian, you want to be choosing your algae qualities as well, making sure the source is okay. And you want to be having your flax seeds, linseeds, and chia seeds too. And then your supplementation is, I would always say your vitamin C, because it's a mineral. Your zinc, it's a mineral. We lose it a lot. We have, as I mentioned before, we have all of our enzymes on our tongue. Your probiotics and licorice, slippery elm. If you have any pain along here, slippery elm creates this beautiful lubricant along your esophagus here if you're experiencing acid reflux, etc. Okay, right. That was a non-stop whistle tour. I'm sorry I'm going so fast, but we have a lot to cover. Radiant skin health. Okay, so glowing from the inside out. Obviously, what we've mentioned and what you don't know is that whatever is happening on the inside is reflective on the outside. So what maybe you haven't been taught is that your skin is an organ. Your skin is the largest organ too. So everything that you put on your skin sucks it up. There's immunes, there's immune cells, there's enzymes, there's minerals, there's nutrients. There's so much happening, living and breathing. It's taking in the world. Your skin is an extension of you. So everything that you put on it is going to resemble you, and vice versa what's happening. So like I just said, toxic overload, pollution, etc. It's going to might causing a reaction for you too. So you might have noticed if you've gone to a city and it's like, I've got some eczema or dry skin. So notice what's happening there. I know where I am in London, we have a lot of cadmium, and I'm a cyclist too. So if I get stuck behind a bus or something, it's like, oh my God, my poor skin. So that's why it's like I want to sweat as much as possible. So my medicine, and I notice so many benefits from it, is sauna therapy, because as well you're allowing your skin to open up and sweat whatever it's experienced during the day. A big one here is glycation from sugar. So with sugar, unfortunately, sugar really is like cocaine or maybe worse, because it just has no nutrient value whatsoever. It's addictive and toxic. And what happens is we receive glycation in products. So that's really what creates wrinkly skin, to be honest with you. And it converts your collagen to an unstable version. So really, what's your sugar intake? Obviously, if you're on any medications and things, that reacts with the sunlight too. Stress always causes low, dull skin. Allergies, what I just mentioned, because if you're experiencing allergies, that's inside the gut. That's going to create maybe some eczema, psoriasis, unnude spots, and things like that. So what can we do? Obviously, always a lot to glow up by. So what I love, or is what my go-to diet, and obviously I hate the word diet, my way of eating is, it's really simple, but you've heard so much about it, and it's the rainbow diet. Why is it the rainbow diet? So they tell us that we're supposed to have 5 servings of fruit and vegetables. We're supposed to be having 10, but the problem is it's hard for a lot of people to take that. So why are we having the rainbow diet? Because in every single fruit, nutrient, vegetable, herbs, flowers, it's so colorful. Why is it colorful? Because every single enzyme there's a flavonoid, there's a reaction. So every single color creates a cascade of so many movements and so many health compounds that's anti-inflammatory. It stables your capillaries, it protects you against cancer, protects you against diabetes, all of these things. So these colors are so rich in information and they're giving your body so much. So I would say they're called flavonoids. So particularly take a screenshot of this one. You've got really a lot of the potent ones here for skin health. They're antioxidant. And the deeper the color, you're guaranteed the more higher quality nutrients it is. Usually with purple colored fruits and vegetables, that has been associated with greater protection of brain health. And as well, you can eat your sunscreen. So now's a really good time to prepare you for the summer months. So if you're incorporating more orange and fruit vegetables, your phytonutrients, your carotenoids here that can protect you from the sun, obviously then you would wear your sunscreen as well. Acne and spots prevention here. So this comes into that sugar cascade here. Acne generally can be a little bit genetic too, because we are sometimes there is like they can't people that do have a big history with acne rather than a period of stress can't usually digest dairy as much. So you notice that because they naturally create more sebum, more oil too. You'll notice that. So if you try cutting out sugar, decreasing dairy, you'll notice probably a big benefit. If we're experiencing dermatitis, intermittent fasting has been shown for great benefits, as well followed up by an anti-inflammatory diet. Anti-aging skin, like vitamin C, because it's connected to collagen production as well, is really beautiful. And then finally, probiotics for the skin. So now they're finding so many enzymes and probiotics on the skin. So unfortunately, during COVID, we've been putting all chemicals, alcohols, you name it, onto our skin. That's been causing and damaging our poor microbiome in our skin. So we really want to be looking at restoring the probiotics in our skin. I love opening a probiotic capsule. It's rich in lactobacillus, and mixing it with a little bit water, and you can do a nice mask too. And then your recommendations too is your vitamin C, because it's a mineral too. So we lose it with, well, it's not technically a mineral, but it's what we call water soluble. So with stress, drinking too much water, imbalance, you're going to the toilet, it decreases. Maritime pine bark extract has shown promising results over a 5-week study of reducing the signs of wrinkles too. So, lastly, nutrients to prevent a hangover. So usually a hangover occurs based on not the alcohol intake, but how your body is able to break down the chemicals from it too. So we want to be really kind of building our system up and utilizing all of those things that we've spoken about. So we want to create the terrain for the digestion. So in your toolkit, I would obviously have these before you're ingesting alcohol, and then post as well. So milk thistle is kind of like deemed the queen bee of protecting the liver. But what it does is, compared to a lot of compared to your artichoke and your B vitamins and your curcumin, which is the compound from turmeric, what it does is it protects your liver. So I always have this in my toolkit as when I'm socializing as well. Milk thistle, you want to get it in the droplets. I want to get it in the tablet form. You want to make sure that the source is just pure milk extract, that it's got no additives in it, because then that's going to cause more strain on your liver. Glutathione is your master antioxidant here. It decreases with age. So glutathione protects your system from all inflammation. So I would have this in your toolkit as you age. Artichoke naturally breaks down all like toxins and things to help your liver excrete. Magnesium, which is our master mineral as well. Magnesium is, like I mentioned, magnesium is also water soluble too. So if we're stressed, if we're low, we will excrete that as well. And magnesium is in every single one of your cells. So if your magnesium is low, then you can't actually pull other nutrients into your cell. Like vitamin C, again, it's your major antioxidant too. So it's really important to making sure that your levels are always high. And then when you're drinking, these are going to decrease. Curcumin, which is the compound from turmeric, the powder, is anti-inflammatory. So what we're noticing now, actually, with alcohol, it's creating more of an inflammation response. We weren't so sure about that in the interactions, but now as we study it a lot more, exhibit next slide, it's not just the booze giving you a hangover, it's the microbes in your stomach. So look at this super image here of an impression of all the microbes in your stomach that I was speaking about. And so hangovers, what they're saying now is that hangovers occur due to the side effects of the chemical process when alcohol is broken down. Even though alcohol is fairly harmless, but the enzymes convert into acetaldehyde, which does the damage. So the longer that this compound acetaldehyde hangs around in your system, so those nutrients help cleave it out, the longer that you're going to experience maybe that nausea, that headache, that like lethargy. And so actually what happens is you'll notice in a lot of Asian cultures how typically they can't digest alcohol as much. It's because there's a mutation that speeds up that how acetaldehyde is actually formed within the system. And so this is really interesting here to just show you as well, and I'm going to read this study out, is that 25 healthy volunteers who are not regular drinkers were given a wine of glass of vodka. There was a wide variety of response here. So those with the worst systems and changes in their blood tests and their blood lipids had the highest levels of toxins coming from the cell walls of their gut microbes. So it's how the alcohol was interacting with their gut. So these toxins called LPS, which you don't want LPS in your system or in your blood work, leaked into their intestines, and that caused the inflammation. So this causes inflammation. And so what it induced the microbe species that were pro-inflammatory. So it kind of extended those bad bacteria that were more inflammatory and causing like an immune system to go under attack. That's why you feel that sensation too. So what they're saying then is obviously it's like, well, going back to hello digestion, hello Hippocrates begins in the gut, is that are we more microbiome or are we more DNA? So really disease does begin in the gut, and all of our experiences and how we live our lives, because it's the microbiome. And that's where we have come to really wrapping up 2023. It's all about the environment. It's all about how you are part of the environment and how you participate and exchange. So if that's your biggest takeaway, please lend me some comments. Let me know what you're struggling with. But I wish you a very happy holidays. Thanks a lot. I'm Natalie Smythe. Thanks for joining.